The Fueled by Death guest.
Starting out a show like this, especially with two incredible musicians like yourselves, a question that we always like asking, and I'm gonna start with you, and then we'll walk down. What got you into music? I always love asking this question of either it's an influence or something in your life that really kind of made you gravitate towards music, and I'm talking early.
In the beginning, I remember going over I had an uncle who his father owned a bar, and it closed or something, and he put all the cool stuff in the basement, the jukebox, pinball machine, pool table, and he filled the jukebox up with Elvis 45s, like Sun Records and the early RCA ones. And as a kid, I would go over there, and it was free, so you could hit any button. So I would listen to it, and I was just really intrigued by it, and I really got into it. And I think it all started there, my love of music. But the thing, it took a while because my family wasn't really into music, and we didn't have a stereo till I was like 14, I think, or
right.
And I got, it was like a gift I got, and then I devoured it. That was all I focused on and did. And I wanted to play the guitar, and I started playing guitar, and the rest is history.
Just never looked back.
Yeah, I never looked back, and my one vice is used to be buying CDs and records.
Oh yeah.
now everything's on these little devices.
It's way easier.
Yeah. It is, and it's easier, and I still like the physical product, and the whole experience is so different now. And I know I'm jumping ahead to like now, but the way, like when I was younger, you'd buy a record and you'd open it and you'd put it on, you'd sit there and listen to it and either read the lyrics or just look at the album cover, and that was the experience you had. Where now it seems like I do everything, listen to music while I'm doing everything else.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think there's something lost in that? Do you think it's not getting appreciated the way it should be nowadays?
I think there's something lost, and I think there's something gained, because you can, for someone like me, you can absorb and listen and experience music more often.
Yeah.
Instead of if you just had records like I did, you can't put that you can't bring it to your car, so to speak, and listen to your records. I'm sure some people did something like that. But,
that's true.
So the whole, I think what's lost though is that whole experience. But what's gained is you have more access to more music. So it's
like a quality versus quantity argument almost.
Could be.
In this modern age, you can get turned on to so many new bands. Just it's so much more easy to investigate and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
When in the old days, we just talked about this the other day, but in the old days, you actually had to do all kinds of work to even figure half the shit out. You'd have to go to record shows and like read zines and go to, there was no internet. So you just that's how you figured it out. Now it's just, there is something pretty convenient about just pressing a button, and all of a sudden, that if you like this band, you might like these 3 other million bands, and then you just keep on going down that river. Is pretty sweet. But there is something extra rad about playing a record. My memory of not only just the music, but it is of the experience of looking at the record cover while it being played. And imagining whatever.
Right.
No, I always think of the Meatloaf record where he's
Bad Outta Hell.
Bad Outta Hell. Where he's, I don't know why, as a kid I was fascinated with that.
That's another good point. So when you, as a kid, you go to a record store, and that record has a really cool cover.
Yeah.
And I hated it, by the way. You buy that record and you think it's going to be like this, Black Sabbath metal.
Right, yeah,
and
totally.
it turns out to be this
Show tunes.
horrible
Yeah, you're right.
music. And so I would buy, I'd buy records by the way the cover looked.
Yeah.
And because in the beginning, I'm talking like when I was a teenager, there's publications, but to Matt's point, like you had to find out about all this stuff, and if you didn't read all these magazines about what band was what, or just going to the record store and thumbing through records.
Yeah.
It wasn't always pay dirt, right?
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
times you're like, damn, this band looks so sweet.
So-
and then it's like, what?
I remember buying the Smiths' "Meat Is Murder,"
Yeah.
and I never heard, and I thought it was going to be the most vicious punk rock record
You
ever.
were wrong.
You know what I mean? "Meat Is Murder," and the guy has,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Is there
oh
any
my God,
examples
this
of things that go the other way where maybe it's like, oh, that's going to be wimpy, and then you put the record on and it's like blaring rock and roll? Who did a soft cover album but hard music?
I don't know.
That's a great question.
That is a great
I've never
question.
had that experience.
Yeah.
Me neither.
There might be a couple of maybe like Western and swing fans or something, or country guys who like buy a Hank 3 record thinking that
That's
could
true.
be like his granddad, and then you turn it on and it's it's not.
That's
It's almost
true.
the magic in it, like he's infiltrating
Which I
country
love.
music. Yeah,
Which I love, by the way. Yeah,
yeah, it's great.
So
it's definitely doing it with the.
So Matt, speaking on back to early musical influence, I'm very curious to find out. You play an instrument that is something that not very many people pick up. Like, where did accordion come into your life?
Well, yeah, not a lot of people do it.
Yeah,
My-
I mean, Weird Al comes to mind.
I hear you, and my roommates and my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time, they're not like they weren't necessarily fans of it. It's just like,
They weren't stoked
what
on
the hell
that,
are
huh?
you? What the hell are you doing?
Can you put that down, please?
Yeah, like just why don't you do what like most people do? Just play the drums, bass, guitar,
Right,
just
right.
fuck rock shit,
Right.
and punk shit, and I mean the first time I remember hearing it and liking it was with a combination of when I was much younger I would go to Maine in the summers because my mother's from Maine, and her family's all like mostly from Scotland, so I'd hear Celtic music being played as a young person. And I just was super young, 7 years old.
Yeah.
And of course I'm just dancing around, and we have cousins and stuff come drink all my old man's whiskey,
Right.
and play music, and I would just dance and thought it was great. And then I'm from California, so before the internet, going to Maine was like going like 10 years back in time.
Yeah,
Right.
'Cause I show up at 11 years old or whatever, 12 years old in Portland, Maine, and I got fucking Vans on, checkered
Yeah.
Vans. I
Yeah.
got my hair's dyed. I'm a skateboarder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
straight, and then I'm mixing with people that it's just not behind, but it's just such a different vibe, right? So
Yeah.
when I found whatever punk music and that vibe, I totally turned my back on all that Celtic shit. I was over it, and then it wasn't until much later when I was 17 or so that I kind of got reintroduced to it, maybe through the Pogues, where you're like,
Yes.
'cause that kind of takes that like ethos and turns it upside down, where like that's a way to, for me, I'm like that's a very acceptable way kind of to re-engage that music. I mean, that's how I was like, wow, that was fucking it reached me in a way that maybe other things didn't necessarily.
Yeah.
And then through that you investigate and you kind of go down the hole. But living in California, I played a lot of by accident. My mom would just put it on AM radio, driving me around, going to soccer practice or whatever. I'd listen to a lot of Mexican music too. So, and actually, I really liked it and just never really put it all together. And then later, even while I'm going on skateboard tours around the country, I'd go to pawn shops and stuff and always fuck with an accordion, and loved it. Just it's a pretty weird, complicated thing to just all of a sudden do. But once I picked it up and started playing it, I've never put it back down.
How
it's
old
been
were you
my
when
favorite.
you picked it up?
It's like maybe 24.
Yeah.
Excuse
When
me,
I-
he does never put it down.
This is a rare moment right now.
So wait, that
testifying.
leads to my question. Have you ever played this accordion and skateboarded at the same time?
I have.
Yay!
That's great.
Hooray. Yeah, actually, I wouldn't probably do it today, but like 20 years ago, I was dared to do something. So I was playing a tune, then kick flipped over like a chain whilst doing it.
Awesome. Is there video of that?
No, it's like it's pre-iPhone.
Oh, man. Do you still skate?
I do, just not all the time.
Right,
not as much as
right.
I'd like to. We do a cruise every year now. Flogging Molly does, and
Yeah.
last year we had our skateboard ramp on there.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
we had all my old teammates from H Street.
Awesome.
And we had like 15 skaters from that team. So we had, if for skateboarders in the world, we had everybody: Danny Way, Eddie Alguera,
Yeah.
Tony Magnuson, with the entire Arcadoy brothers, everybody. So it was
Whoa. all on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
Sal Barbie was pretty incredible. So, yeah. So I went from like we work on that cruise so much. I mean, we actually work behind the scenes, making sure it's all cool in the gang.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, okay, so like a month or two before the cruise goes out, I'm gonna start getting rust off. Because I can skateboard for real, but it just takes takes some time to get that rust off.
Yeah.
My brain will write some skateboarding checks that the rest of me really can't cash. So I was thinking I was going to spend all this time getting that rust off, but I just didn't. I was just too busy working on it. And then I remember it was like we hadn't even thought about getting lights on the ramp yet, so it was dark. And I'm like, I actually really haven't skateboarded in like 3 or 4 months here.
Oh no!
And dropped right in and was like, wow, okay, this is gonna. It's gonna suck for a little while. So, anyways, yeah. And my son, who's just about to turn 20, I mean, he skateboards every day. So when I'm around him, I tend to do it more.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Speaking on the cruise, because you brought it up, I'm very curious how an Irish punk act like yourselves decided, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna get a bunch of our friends' bands, and we're gonna get a cruise, and we're going to go out in the middle of the ocean and go to the Caribbean. How does that, like, you guys started this a couple of years ago. Where did that idea kind of, like, start from?
Yeah, where did it
I mean, we've been kind of like, there's not like a hooray moment that everybody's like, I think it was
We're going on a cruise.
Over time, like, we've done just, like, some of the songs we sing about, there's been like a easy equation to piracy.
Oh, totally.
And so you could maybe take that and go one step further. And we've had talks where maybe we were going to get a pirate ship and like fucking sail it to port and kind of do like a Sex Pistols in the Thames fucking gig where we shoot through your harbor and get down and see how that happens. But it's just we ended up slowly investigating that. It was way too much money. If you actually that's just into millionaire yachting sort of a vibe. But now you have a pirate ship with a crew, it starts to get ludicrous. But I don't know when the right. But we have always like thought that it would be a good idea at some point. Like exactly how that looked, we didn't really know. But and that's the thing we fought with ourselves. And Dennis, you can correct me if I'm not right here, but like the one thing that I don't like about it, or what I didn't like about it when we started talking about it, is like just the word like cruise.
Yeah. That's the thing that turns
kind of
me
goes.
off.
It kind of goes against this band. I mean,
exactly.
We were like, I find that I look at ourselves as like a pretty working class,
totally
band, hard working fucking. We're not necessarily yachting around or cruising around. So that was the thing I didn't like. So how do you fix that? So what we do is we just, we do it. So we pick the bands hand done, and when you walk on that ship, it's like, yeah, it's our ship, but it's like the inmates are taking over when you go on there. That doesn't feel posh in a shitty way. It feels like, oh my God, like they let the punkers take over the cruise ship, and it really, I mean, everything is thought about. The music that you hear from the moment you walk on that ship in the hallway, everything has this like, oh my God, are they playing the fucking Vandals on the on the Lido deck? Like it's fucking. It has a sense that you, and then. Dennis, you can you can testify, but within 10 minutes of being on that cruise ship, people are drinking and hanging out. There's this great feeling of camaraderie that comes over you. You're like, wow, we're all in this together. I can't describe it, but you know that if there's any other ship that wanted to fuck with this ship, they would lose because they would just be like,
throwing it down.
Because it's just, and that's hard to describe. It's hard to say even on this, but it's like it actually is. It's there. It's such a. It doesn't feel like no one feels like. I don't know. I walk off that ship feeling legit.
Yeah. So awesome.
Initially, I was really skeptical.
Yeah.
I have to be honest.
That's what I wanted to know.
I was like, this doesn't sound right to me. I was never on a cruise before, but I just, I have visions of shuffleboard and pina coladas. And,
right. Yeah, exactly.
And I
Old
was
people.
really, even all the way, I was all skeptical all the way up till the day I got on the boat. I walked on and I met 2 people from Belgium, the first 2 people I met, and I was like,
all right,
I think this can work.
Wow.
And then, like Matt said, you go to the main part of the ship, and there's all these people there, and it just sort of, there is a camaraderie. I think it's, everybody's excited to be there, and it, there's a lot of music and fun in the air, and it just turned into this wonderful like festival kind of thing on it.
It's awesome that you guys take all of the reins on it too, because that makes it.
Did you buy a boat?
No.
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 But
Did
but
we
at
land
least-
our helicopters on your joiner?
But at least you guys are, you're making sure that, your fans and the bands that you're involving in this are having the best experience possible, and because you guys are so integrated in making this happen, and I think that's awesome. I mean, just since 2015, you guys have done this. Some of my favorite bands, have been on this with you guys, like Gogo Bordello.
I will tell you that,
and-
like, that sensation we're talking about. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
No.
But like, like the fact that, like, I don't know if that will work for me. That's not just like us forward talking like that. That's like across the board. So,
Right.
like when we wanted to get Rancid and stuff,
I was gonna say, yeah.
we would you'd have to kind of tell them the same thing. I mean, I remember talking to Lars, like, it's not that. It's
Right.
Not,
It's not what you think it is.
Yeah, and,
Right.
and when I talked to those guys afterwards, they totally are 100% like, oh my god, that was
They want to do it again.
fucking
Yeah.
on point, because it really it does feel, for a lack of figuring out some other way of saying it, like the crazy people have taken over the Salem,
awesome.
and in a great way.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And-
it never. You would, when you offer free booze to
Yeah.
Flogging Molly fans, you would think
That's dangerous.
a lot of horrible things. But
I see broken bottles. and-
Yeah. Well, they don't serve bottles. No, they have bottles of whiskey actually. But,
Right.
not
there was-
suicidal. It's not suicidal. It's just,
But I think everybody, the whole vibe of it is that everybody maybe is aware. I don't know. It's not complete mayhem where there's
Yeah.
like just debauchery everywhere.
Wait, you got to think, if there's a jerk on the boat, you're
only
dealing
takes
with
one.
that jerk the
Yeah.
whole time.
It only takes one, and
You can't kick him off, can you?
We're
well, there
yeah,
is a boat jail.
place there's a boat, little
okay.
holding area.
A
If you
little
want to
eject
get
button.
extra, if you want to
Yeah.
get extra rad, there's a place for you to hang out.
I mean, we're also very
It's a tank.
involved. Like, we're not in some private wing,
Right.
waiting. We're like right in the middle of it, just hanging out with people by the pool, having some drinks and eating food with them, and
yeah, it's not
that's the
it's
whole-
not meant to be separated between
Right.
Which is awesome.
yeah.
And
I mean-
and you guys are saying, it's like, like you'd think there'd be a lot of debauchery. I mean, you're inviting some people who are known for that. I mean, like No Effects and Fishbone. Like both Dustin
I
and
think
I
of
actually.
every Gogo Bordello show
And
I've
Gogo,
been to.
yeah.
I don't even dance, and I can't help but to
Yeah.
dance at a Gogo show. It's just
I want
brings
to talk
out
a
the
little.
madness in you.
I want to talk a little bit about you guys are continuing it up, and in 2018 you're doing it again, and that's really exciting. I think I saw a lineup. Is the lineup confirmed already
Yeah.
for that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
who is it? Well, I know who it is. Offspring, Vandals, Buzzcocks,
Wow.
Lagwagon.
The best and
Skinny
fun.
Lister. I mean, it just goes on and
Oh my
the list
goodness.
is-
And that's for you guys do it for 3 or 4 days, right?
Yep.
Like down to the Caribbean and back.
days.
And yeah, I mean tickets are on sale now, right?
Yeah.
They
Oh
are.
man, I'll put up a link for everybody who's
Thank
listening
you.
and watching, so you guys can get your tickets, because that sounds like one hell of a time.
So where does it take off? Where does it land? Where do you go?
well, it leaves out of Miami. This year it's going to 2 different ports. What's the different? There's a different port this year.
There is, but they always have an island you got to play on, and I forgot what that's in the Caribbean.
Oh, so you get off the boat and you actually play.
Yeah, that's the
everybody
fun
has
part of a
to.
cruise. You get off for a
They,
bit.
Awesome.
the cruise, the ship stays way off in the distance, and they have these little, what are they called? These
Dinghies?
flat dinghies boats that take everybody in, and you invade the island, and you take over, and there's a stage set up, and us and another band always play. But this year we're going to a different place. Like, I know Key West
Keys,
is
yeah.
one
Oh,
of the
nice.
stops.
Oh, very cool.
Really?
Very, very cool. Wow, that's
And
so
of course, there's been a lot of tragedy
Yeah.
in these
Yeah,
zones.
yeah.
We played this
And-
before the.
Yeah, my mom kicks it in the keys.
But I'll
so
say,
she's
I
there
mean, I've
picking
talked to
up
different
stuff
bunch of
now.
different people about that, and these places that got so devastated, they like 99% of their income is through
Yeah.
tourism. So,
Yeah.
like you could have this argument, I guess, and in my own brains, I'm like, wow, okay, so now we're gonna this sounds like this is out of a Sex Pistols song, we're holidaying other people's miseries, but. The truth is that if your economy is 99% tourism, the best thing you can do
Spring
Bring
tourists.
people
it's
there, yeah.
like SS salty dogs parked out in front of your zone. We're gonna go and spend some money and try to help those people. So.
Come on, punkers, let's go.
Let's support the community.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
So cool.
Speaking on travel a little bit, I'm curious on this. You guys this year came out with your newest record, Life Is Good, which is killer, by the way, and you guys are touring on that right now. This is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the second record that you've recorded overseas in Ireland, right? You did
correct.
Float and you did
Yeah.
Life Is Good over in Ireland. What is that experience like? Especially for a band like you guys, like, do you have the same kind of reception over in Ireland as you do in the States, or is it completely different?
We do not have this. I mean, people think that we kill it in Ireland. We do well, but it's countries you wouldn't think, like Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands. We have a bigger fan base there.
Really?
But the whole recording thing was really different than anything we've done.
Really?
It's in the middle of Ireland.
Okay.
And there's nothing around it, so you have to have. It's got to be catered, and there's a pub connected to the studio.
Awesome.
So you can go somewhere, but it's just surrounded by farms.
Riding sheep
nice.
everywhere.
While you're doing takes, it's all windows. You're doing takes. There's cows going by
Randomly, just like
ducks,
scooting around.
yeah.
What?
And you walk. If
pretty
you
rad.
walk to your where you're staying, there's always like 4 dogs, 3 chickens, and
So
geese,
cool.
and it's really secluded.
Sounds perfect.
It is.
It is.
Isolation to clear your mind and kind of keep you in the zone. I mean, we've done different records in big ass cities, which is also great. but
Right.
There's a lot of distraction. And
Yeah.
we all
Yeah.
have lots of friends like, what are you doing tonight? We're getting fucking crazy. We're
Right,
going to wherever.
right.
And like, no one's calling you to do that at Westmeath, Ireland. And if they do, it's like, I'll meet you in an hour in Dublin for some pints or whatever. But you get to focus 100% on what you're doing. So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, then they have all these interesting things you can do, like shoot guns, bonfires. We did a lot of
fun, man.
bonfires this time.
You're camping and recording at the same time.
And not
That's
just shoot
nice.
guns. Patty was very adamant about making sure that we were fucking like a bank robber. Like we went to go shoot a shotgun,
Yeah.
Not a lot of guns in Ireland, but for farming purposes, yeah, So
Okay.
he's all right. And we started shooting shotguns and stuff, and he's all, "You're doing it wrong. You need to do it like you're robbing a fucking bank."
Oh my God.
It was lots of fun. Be like, "Yeah, give it the business," and pull out that stuff. It was lots of fun.
That's awesome. Did you guys record Life Is Good in the same spot that you recorded Float in, or was
Same
this
studio,
same
same
studio,
spot,
same everything?
everything.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's very, very cool. And in recent years, your Flogging Molly has definitely gained a lot more in the States. Would you guys agree? I mean, you guys have been a band now since the late '90s, but I think that especially with your last couple albums, I think people are finally starting to give you your due. Like, I think for you guys have said it yourselves, you're one of the hardest working bands out there. You have your own label. You are everything you do. You guys put your thumbprint on, and I feel like now I'm hoping that, and you guys feel the same way, that you guys are starting to get some of that recognition. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah, continue, sir. I think so. Right? I think that just over the 20 years of doing this, that is starting to feel like it's starting to happen. We've had to, we've done all this without a hell of a lot of record help or radio
Right.
necessarily being, that's not been our key, It's keeping it real and being on,
Yeah.
and writing great tunes.
Of
is,
course.
is
And
the
putting on
recipe.
good shows.
Yeah.
What is it like, not only being a hardworking band, having to tour, having to create music, record the music and all that stuff, but also have to have the label side? Does that hinder you guys at all, or does that help?
Well, I think we've had some changes in that department.
Yeah, we don't have a label anymore.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, I did not know that, actually. Okay, so what is the next course of action then?
In regards to what?
In regards to the label, are you guys shopping?
You must have distribution, right?
That record came out on Concord.
Oh, on Concord.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. See, that's me for not knowing my stuff. Everybody, I should have known that. Okay, so let's talk about that then. What's the transition from going from having to do that all the time, and now you're finally allowing someone else to put out your record?
What is that transition? That's
I mean,
it's a long, boring answer. It's just like business kind of stuff.
Was it something that was always on the horizon, or did it kind of come? Did it come organically?
So, yeah, like we've been fortunate enough. I think the other companies we've worked with, like Side One,
Yep.
where we can. I think we could decide what we want to do with each record, and whoever was our manager at the time kind of looked out for us in that way. So every time a record, we're going to make a record,
Right.
we would think, are we going to stay with this company, or are we going to try to put ourselves, or are we going to go to a different company? So I think it wasn't. I think it was just at that moment we thought, well, let's try something different. We tried the label thing. Concord came around. We had a different manager.
Yeah, and I think we're just always trying to do the right thing by ourselves, right? I mean, we're just trying to be as successful as we possibly can, and people that work for us, or they're trying to do the same thing most of the time for us, and we just keep trucking.
That's
trying to figure. And this is all while the last 20 years, music industry always just constantly changing.
Changing.
And
right.
I mean, the more I talk to people about that, even fact, like, the music, like how things happen in the world, especially the internet and stuff, changes every friggin' 10 days.
Yeah.
So that's a much different world than 20 years ago.
Yeah, completely different.
Or even when we put out the Speed of Darkness on our own label,
Yep.
the industry is completely different now, and I think that played a part in our decision making.
That's and this is a type of industry. Being able to speak with a lot of different musicians in the music industry, it is something that it's like this industry that no matter what will always change. It never will be stagnant.
You have to adapt,
and you have to adapt. And I think that's something that a band like you guys like really has that strength for, because you're always willing to do that, and you're willing to put the work in to put out the best product, like you said, and put out the best music that you can. And I think that's
really interesting to see the whole music on the internet day come through, and all these bands that had all these major labels that sounded like every other band now had a choice to okay, everything's watered down now. Do we make our own sound? Do we make our or do we keep on trying to shoot right up the middle? And I remember seeing a handful of bands. I think of bands like Brand New and like Finch that sounded like your typical emo band. And then when that label devastation happened with the internet, we saw them come out with unique music, perhaps because they had their own reign on it at that point. They didn't have typical label backing them to make the mainstream music.
Did you steer it in whatever direction they're wanting?
Yeah, and you guys probably didn't experience that at all, because you were calling your own shots.
We always, from the beginning with Side One, they were, whatever you guys want to do. They never said go back and write a hit single or anything like that. We would turn in a record and they'd just be thrilled.
awesome.
That's probably why you can keep on doing it, because you're not selling your soul. You get to do what you want to do, and it creates a longevity of your career, I would imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine it any other way.
Yeah.
At this point, we're friends with bands, and we hear stories like this, and they'll record a record, and then we got to do it again with a different producer.
Yeah.
And these kind of things we never. Fortunately, it went through.
And with your tour schedule, I'm sure if you were playing music that necessarily you didn't want to play, you were writing for other people, writing for the mainstream, you'd get sick of it fucking
that sounds
quick.
like a nightmare.
Yeah.
It sounds like torture.
Ow. I know, right?
Yeah.
So that leads me to, you're 20 years down the road, you're calling your own shots. What fuels you guys to keep on trucking and keep on playing these tireless tours and keep on being the hardest working band on the road?
I mean, the fans.
Yeah.
I mean, our fans. For me, the belief in the music. I mean, I actually really believe what we're singing about. It's
Yeah.
not, I mean, if I just really feel that way. So even though, like, you know, you could have the argument that it's almost Groundhog's Day sometimes, where you're like, okay, the same set list over and over and over again, but it's not. I'm like excited to play these gigs, and then when I'm every day I meet people that go to our shows at the bar afterwards or wherever. They come up to me and they're being 1,000% sincere with a tear in their eye and tell me that, like, man, I played your music at my brother's funeral, and it's just such a heaviness that any bit of whinging that I might have been incurring that day, because maybe I missed something at my house, or my wife has called me up and she's pissed or something.
Yeah.
It all just fades away into nothing, and I'm like, wow, it's just way so much more important than
Bigger picture.
any kind of whinging or the shower wasn't hot enough or bullshit. You know.
Yeah.
It really makes me feel like I'm doing it. We're out here we're struggling for a really good end cause for the right reason.
Yeah, when you hear stories like that, there's really no. Is there a bigger compliment than somebody like putting your words on their headstone of their
Right. No.
child? Or compliment may not be the right word, but it's very,
Honored.
Yeah, that's quite an honor. And to Matt's point, that's why that really fuels. You know, when someone believes and loves what you've done that much, it just recycles back into us, and you know, it's this sort of cycle that happens, and those stories are still coming.
Wow.
So so even though we've been on tour for a month, like tonight, like 5 minutes before we go on, we're excited to do it, and in a way that, because it's just keeping those sentiments real.
Wow, that's awesome. That's very inspiring, guys. Really, really cool. Like you said, you've been on tour for a month. You're kind of wrapping up this aspect of Life is Good tour, and then the cruise, the Salty Dog Cruise, is happening in April of 2018. Do you guys got anything going in between? Or are you taking that time off, or?
Oh yeah, we're playing with Dropkicks.
Dropkicks.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
Europe. We got to Europe.
Oh, nice. So you guys are going over to Europe. That's cool. Yeah, I know you guys are always out there. That's why I wanted to put that out there. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you, just to wrap this up, the best place for our fans and your fans to follow you guys on social media, like what kind of social media do you guys are on regularly? I mean, I know Flogging Molly, the website obviously is the easiest way, but for social media.
I mean, we got Facebook and Instagram.
It's
Facebook,
pretty much the best.
Instagram, Twitter, all of those.
Do you guys believe in personal social media, or do you shy
I was
away
just
from
going
it?
to say, I don't know if I should answer this because I don't have any of those.
And that's
things
totally
in
cool.
mind.
The only thing I have is Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my only. I
We
had a
praise
Facebook for a
Instagram
little
pretty
bit,
hard
and then
here.
I just was like, oh my god, I don't even know how.
Yeah.
I felt like shit not responding, and I just was
Right.
like, oh my god, it's just we're done here.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely the way to go. But as D-Man said, we do praise Instagram here. We like.
It's like
we
an
that
album of your
platform.
life you get to share with the world. So,
Yeah.
you know, you get to pick about, you know, how much you're releasing to everyone. Where I feel like Facebook, if you're not careful, it's telling everybody everything about what you're doing, where you are, what you like, what you hate, what you're sick of. I don't know. Facebook gets weird sometimes, but
Yeah.
I feel like you have a lot of control of what
The future is
release.
weird.
Yeah, future is weird, man.
Future's weird. Well, I want to thank both you guys for taking time on your tour to come to Death Wish and talk with us. It was super rad to talk with both of you. We're really big fans,
Yeah.
and we wish you guys the best, especially on the end of your tour and into Europe and the cruise of next year. So
Thank you.
Wow, thank you guys.
thank you guys.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.